Gospel music is something that a lot of us grew up with. You go to church on a Sunday morning with your parents and see this choir praising Jesus while singing from the bottom of their hearts. While this spirit can still be seen in some churches, it's dying out. Gospel music has become an industry and is slowly starting to lose track of the true spirit that we once enjoyed at church. Today, gospel music is completely different from what we saw as kids, and the truth is that it has become a money-making industry for too many artists. We must look beyond the surface of what the gospel music industry has become. There are a lot of artists entering this industry, but the problem is they aren't doing it for the right reasons. Join me as I expose the evil truth and the dark side that exists in this once faith-driven industry. Gospel music isn't something new. In fact, experts have traced the origins of gospel music back to around the 17th century, as several sources have reported.
The music can be traced all the way back to the early 17th century.
The music itself has an even longer history. Many civilizations actually use music as a form of worship, and this type of activity can be traced back thousands of years. However, gospel music as we know it today started in the 17th century and began to grow bigger by the 18th century. However, things weren't really the same as the gospel music we hear today. Some of the early work that has been uncovered by researchers describe the use of a hymn lining in Scotland. One person would sing a solo, and then you would have a group of people behind that person following along. When slavery became a central part of American and European economies, it's said that those who brought slaves over to other countries enforced Christianity upon them. This often involved slaves being forced to go to church, and this is where they learned some of the hymns that became popular among these groups of black people. This led to the creation of African American gospel music. John Newton also focused on using this style of gospel music as a way to help the movements that were put in place at the time to end the era of slavery. Fast forward to today, and we continue to see this kind of hymn lining in many churches. Walk into a black church and you'll see someone leading with a solo, and the entire choir following behind them praising God. Even though this is something that you can still see in many churches, some people decided to take advantage and created a gospel music industry that could be monetized. That's what I like to focus on in this video. We'll take a closer look at how gospel music went through a way to be faithful and worship God in an industry that's been making black artists millions of dollars.
If you can watch now the industry called gospel music today, you see that a lot of it is solely for the aggrandizement. It is for the awards.
In the modern day, we see a lot of places where terms like Christian get added. What really makes these Christian compared to other schools where there are Christian teachings available to students? The same goes for Christian artists. Slapping the word Christian to something isn't more than a marketing trick to attract people and make sales. Consider one person who sings gospel songs but only refers to himself as an artist. Then there's another guy who sings similar songs but he refers to himself as a Christian artist. In the modern day, that extra addition to his profession is what he uses as part of his marketing tactics. Before we dive deeper into the evil side of the gospel music industry, there's something I'd like you to note quickly. We live in a world where the economy is making it hard for some people to get by. Today, money is something that every living person needs to survive. You need money to buy food, and that food is going to nourish your body. You need money to pay for rent, buy a car, have a phone to communicate with others, and make sure you have clothes to cover your body. Money has become a critical part of society and living. Thus, you can't really expect someone to do everything for free. The priest standing on the pedestal in front of the church needs to put food on the table for his family, yet he gives up his time to preach for us all. The choir that sings at the church, each member has a family to go back to and to feed and care for. In a similar way, someone who decided they want to worship God through their music and pursue a career where they can spread the word of Christ through song still needs to have a way to feed themselves and their families. With all of this in mind, making money from your efforts to spread the word of God isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's something you do out of passion for your religion, and you earn a living as a result. However, this is also where the evil truth comes into play. What you expect from your career, what you do with the money you make, and how you grow over time are things that determine your position in this industry. Are you doing these things for God or for the money? There's a point where a person goes from worshiping God to worshiping money. The idea of speaking about money in a God-like manner isn't something new. When money becomes everything in your life, you're no longer doing all of these things to showcase your faith in the Lord, but rather to make more money and to become richer. There's an interesting verse that comes from Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 10. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. To get started with exposing the evil truth of the gospel music industry, we have to start by looking at some of the biggest names. These are the names that generally pop up when you're looking to listen to some gospel music. One of the biggest names in the industry right now is Kirk Franklin. He's become an icon in the gospel music market and has several singles behind his name. As of 2023, Franklin has an estimated net worth of about $8.5 million. That's quite a high number, but given everything he's done over the past couple of years, it's no wonder that his actions in the gospel music industry were able to make Franklin a millionaire. Some of Franklin's most popular hits include Now Behold the Lamb, I Smile, Revolution, Give Me, He Reigns, My Life is in Your Hands, and Love Theory. Franklin has also worked with major studios throughout his career and produced several music videos to accompany the singles that he released.
Can I talk to you? I know you got some questions. What's the hardest thing you're going through?
The big question now is, how does Franklin make so much money? What is he doing to keep the millions flowing in to support his lifestyle? Remember, I talked about the fact that you can either make music to worship God or create music for the money before. This is exactly where that statement comes into play. First, of course, is the actual music that Franklin makes. Music comes out in various formats, including CDs, and he publishes his music on streaming services. These streaming services allow Franklin to earn royalties every time someone plays his songs. Franklin has acquired quite a big following. On his official Instagram account, you'll notice that there are over 3 million followers. He has a presence on other social media platforms as well, including YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and X. And if you decide to visit the official Kirk Franklin website, you'll be shown a button that takes you directly to a streaming service. Scroll down a bit and you'll also notice his upcoming shows, along with buttons to RSVP and book tickets. It's normal for a gospel artist to host a couple of shows where they perform live, but it's important to understand that he's charging people to come and see him perform. Do you pay to enter a church? You're basically told to buy a ticket if you want to be a part of this worship event that should be dedicated to God, but instead all of the focus is on Franklin. This is also where things get more interesting. If you want to get tickets to his upcoming show, Kirk Franklin Presents Exodus Festival 2024, you can expect to pay a minimum of $123.95 for a single ticket. That's going to get a back row ticket, which means you'll have a hard time really enjoying the festival. Want the best seat? Then you'll have to spend up to $477 for a seat that's set in front of the stage. That's a lot of money to pay if you want to be part of a festival that is said to be worshiping the Lord. And it also explains how Franklin is able to earn so much money. One very interesting comment I discovered on Franklin's Instagram profile. He posted a short video of himself performing in Miami with the text, "Miami, did you enjoy the show?" That's quite normal, but take a closer look at the comment section of the video. One of his followers left a comment, "No one is really praising Jesus in the comments though. Y'all are just praising Kirk Franklin." This comment is quite interesting and very true. Look through his Instagram profile and you'll see people have started to praise Franklin. You rarely see anyone actually mention anything related to faith, God, or religion. With this in mind, did the focus turn from worshiping God to worshiping the artist? That's definitely what it seems like if you take a look at things as they are right now. And the artists love this. They're on fire, as some of the comments on Franklin's social media profiles say, and they're raking in the cash. Of course, Franklin is just one of the many gospel artists out there. We have to really dig into all of them to see how this industry has turned evil and now focuses more on the money than helping people gain faith in the Lord. Next, let's take a look at Karen Clark Sheard. She's been in the industry for quite some time, so we can use her history as a way to see how things have changed over the years. That's because gospel music was once enjoyed as a way to worship God as part of Christianity, where it has become simply an entertainment business today. Karen Clark Sheard has a net worth of $10 million. You heard that right. Her net worth is even more than Franklin. So let's take a closer look at her impact on gospel music and also see how she's using this industry to make money. She's known for quite a large variety of hit songs. This includes the likes of Balm in Gilead, You Deserve It, Jesus is a Love Song, God is Here, You Love Me, Couldn't Tell If I Tried, and more. This was Sheard back in the day. As with many artists, she grew over the years, built an empire for herself, and made a mark in the gospel music industry. Today, she's considered a millionaire because of this. Her career started in 1966. Something that we should note here is that at this time, racism was still at large in the United States. At first, she was part of the Clark Sisters, a gospel group that focused on singing in worship of the Lord. However, she later removed herself from this group and decided on a solo career. There isn't much info on why she left, but it could be that pursuing a career based on how she wanted things to go would bring in more money. Of course, this is pure speculation, and the reason could have been for something completely different. We do know that she got married to John Drew Sheard Sr. in 1984 and has been in the same marriage up until now. Since Sheard is already in her 60s, it's normal to see that she's not as active in the music industry as she once was. However, we can still look at a couple of things throughout her career history to get an idea of how religion played a role in helping her achieve her net worth. Over the years, Sheard has received 13 Stellar Awards, 2 Dove Awards, a Soul Train Award, 2 NAACP Image Awards, and she's won 4 Grammys. People don't win these awards if they don't have a big name. You need to be at the center stage of the industry to receive awards at the Grammys. That also means that Sheard has cashed in big time throughout her career. She's also made an appearance on several television shows.
Personally, for you, it's a big deal. What is it for you all as a group to be recognized in this? Because you are the first gospel group to ever receive this award.
Apart from selling her music on several physical mediums, Sheard's songs can also be streamed on Apple Music, giving her royalty payments every time someone listens to them. There are several other streaming platforms that Sheard has also partnered up with to distribute her music, and over the years, she has not only released several singles, but also multiple albums. Sheard's latest album was released in 2015 and named Destined to Win. Her fame as an entertainer and singer in the music industry helped this album get to the top charts, selling about 15,000 copies within just the first 7 days after its release. As with most gospel artists, Sheard has her own website that represents her as a business. You'll be able to find her latest appearances and concerts directly on the website, along with details to help you understand how you can get tickets. Now, one thing that I did note is that her tickets aren't as ridiculous as when we looked at Kirk Franklin. However, they can still get pricey, as people who want a front row seat need to be prepared to spend at least $100 on a ticket. Once again, you're paying to be part of an event or concert that's supposed to be about worshiping God. And as with Franklin's case, you end up at a concert where things start to focus more on the artist than the message. People end up paying Sheard and the label she represents for a night out to worship someone singing. Let's now turn our focus to another gospel singer who was in the news recently, Kim Burrell. Burrell is not just a gospel singer, but also a songwriter and a pastor. She comes from Houston. Let's start by considering Burrell's career. She was born to a pastor and an evangelist singer. Things started when she decided to perform as part of the James Cleveland GMWA Youth Mass Choir. The group was also called Reverend James Cleveland's Kids. She later joined other choirs, including the Inspirational Sounds Mass Choir of Houston. By 1996, she landed herself a feature in Jesus Paid It All, a song by Ricky Dillard and New G. The song was part of the Worked It Out album. She was also able to create her own solo album called Try Me Again. Tommy Boy Gospel signed her and helped Burrell work on a new album called Everlasting Life. This album was able to make it to the top 10 on the Billboard Gospel charts, which also helped Burrell establish a name for herself in the gospel music industry. Her career started with a focus on creating music that allowed her to praise God. However, things began to change. You see, as with many other gospel artists, it starts this way, but later on, things turn into a business. As someone who wanted to spread the word of Christ through song, it's not uncommon that she was willing to make money from her work. She released CDs, and as technology evolved, Burrell also uploaded her music to online streaming services. However, this is an excellent example of how things can quickly change once you begin to think of gospel music as a business. And the unfortunate truth behind this is the fact that it is a business, no matter how you want to look at it. Burrell was signed by a gospel label, so it became her job. Over the years, Burrell has released several of her songs. She's quite famous for titles like Holy Ghost, Sweeter, Working for Your Good, Yes to Your Will, I See a Victory, and Thank You Jesus. As I've said before, it's not really about making money. It's about how you use the money and what it does to you. At some point, the money goes to your head, and that's when things start to turn. You go from doing all of this work for the Lord to running a business and focusing on squeezing as much money out of it all as possible. By taking a closer look at how people change once the money starts flowing in, it's easy to see how there's an evil truth to the gospel music industry. This brings me to something that happened recently. You see, Burrell is not just a singer, but also a pastor. She regularly preaches at her church in Houston. On this one occasion, which happened in early 2024, she showed a different side of her, a side that clearly told us that she had to be the center of attention.
The gospel singer Kim Burrell is under fire. Sorry for that segue, y'all.
First, let's talk about what happened. It was a church service, and Burrell sang in front of the altar. She decided to sing a song that people are used to singing along to. It's a very common song that you'll often hear in black churches. Choirs would sing it, and the churchgoers would quickly stand up and join in, singing along as they praised Jesus with the song. However, Kim Burrell had a different idea. Even though she decided to sing this very popular song that people are used to singing along to, she decided that the stage was hers and that she had control over who was singing.
It's a solo. God's using me. Don't sing with me right now. Lord, I'm singing alone now. Ma'am, with that mask. Let that mask work for you. I'm singing alone. Lord, I'll be back.
When one woman decided to sing along with Burrell, she was quick to tell her to stop. The thing that we need to consider here is that people are used to singing along with the one leading the song at the front of the church. Yet when Burrell started to sing this famous song of faith, she decided that it was her time to shine. She used God as an excuse when she wanted to get the lady singing along to stop. She said God was using her and that she was singing alone. The lady who wanted to sing along was wearing a mask at the time. Burrell went as far as to tell her, let the mask work for her. When the woman didn't stop, Burrell continued to assert herself. She continued to make remarks to get the woman to stop singing. This wasn't the first time a video went viral showing Burrell's darker side.
Well, sometimes before we get friends, we have to do an interview. How long have you been broke? How many times have you changed your name on your light bill?
This video went viral quickly after it was recorded. It shows Burrell standing on a stage and making remarks. Sure, she seemed to have been making the remarks as a joke at first, but the fact that she touched on sensitive topics is what made people upset. She talked to the audience, asking how many of their bills are not in their names, but rather in the names of their cousins. She went on to make remarks about living situations, asking the crowd how many of them lived in a trailer. Even though she might not have meant it in a serious manner, it still came off as an insult to many people who were facing these types of situations in their lives. Of course, she wasn't referring to herself. With all of the money that Burrell has made through sales of her albums and live appearances, she likely has a really nice home and doesn't have to worry about making ends meet. Was this a way for Burrell to throw around her power and wealth? Opinions are definitely mixed when it comes to asking this question. However, you can look at the video footage yourself and make a conclusion based on what you see. Once again, we see a situation where someone entered the gospel music industry. She started small and then used religion to establish a business. Sure, we don't see Burrell flaunt her wealth in public, but the statements that she has made in public gatherings, as someone leading a church or a group of people, give us evidence that money has become a priority. Her showcase of power over the people is something we cannot ignore. Burrell, like many other gospel singers and artists, has shown us that there's an evil truth behind the gospel music industry. Something else that we can see is people who make a name for themselves in industries like hip hop and rap are starting to notice the earning potential that lies within the gospel music industry. Kanye West is a really good example of this. If you've been keeping up with news about Kanye West, you might have noticed that he decided to move into a new direction a few years back. The name Kanye West isn't anything new to any of us. West has made a big name for himself. In fact, he's considered to be one of the best-selling artists of our time. However, something that he's known for is swearing, and he's had his fair share of making trouble. In one situation where he was recorded live during a meeting with the President of the United States, who was Donald Trump at the time, he even decided it was okay to swear in the White House.
I'd have expected to have a crazy like Kanye West run up and support, but best believe.
In 2019, Kanye West reported that he was making a big change to his career. He's been a hip-hop star focusing on mainstream media for years. In his report, West said that he would only be working on gospel music from that point onward. It wasn't news that West was a Christian. He even released a Christian song back in 2004. The move to gospel music didn't just involve the type of songs he would create following the announcement. You see, Wes also decided to start his very own Sunday service. This move meant a mainstream rapper was now going to experiment with gospel music. This brought up a very important question, as pointed out by the Rolling Stone website. While the move was going to mean Kanye West would be able to benefit from a gospel music industry, the question that remained was whether the gospel industry had anything to gain from West. To see how West has been able to benefit from the gospel music industry, we have to take a closer look at his most recent albums. Jesus is King was the first album that West released when he announced his transition to gospel music in 2019. The album was streamed 196.9 million times and got 109,000 traditional album sales. The total number of sales that the album raked in counted up to 264,000, and the figures helped the album climb to the first spot on the Billboard 200. While his first gospel album was a huge success, reports quickly started to surface about the fact that it wasn't as good as his previous works. Many people started to believe that West's fame was starting to come to an end. In one Forbes article, Byron Raleigh, a contributor who focuses on the music industry, even calls the album mediocre. He continues to explain that the excitement he created among his fans when he entered the gospel music industry will wear off, and that Jesus is King will likely not maintain the high number of sales over time. West has said several things about his move to the gospel music industry. However, this move from his side also raises a lot of questions. Was it really due to his own faith, and he now wanted to start praising the Lord? Or was it rather a business move? Let's face it, many of the famous gospel singers have shown us that there's profit to be made in this industry. Someone like Kanye, who enjoys showing off his wealth by wearing expensive clothing and jewelry while also driving fancy cars, depends on making a consistent stream of money. Thus, entering a market that was thriving at that point could have been an excellent marketing and business move from his side. It's important to understand the type of person Kanye is to truly answer this question. Just a year before his announcement to go into the gospel music industry, he appeared on TMZ Live, where he decided to make comments on sensitive matters. This included saying that slavery is a choice, which quickly created a back and forth between West and Van from the TMZ Live newsroom. West, or Ye as he's rebranded himself, is known for his anti-Semitic hate speech throughout the past as well. When West attended the Yeezy Paris Fashion Week show, he was wearing a shirt that had the words "White Lives Matter" on it. There were also black people printed on the shirt. This is a phrase that was created by white supremacist groups when the Black Lives Matter movement started. West was dropped from a deal with Adidas, and his billionaire status officially got lost. This also created headlines as Adidas decided to conduct an internal investigation. This investigation was due to some employees complaining about West's inappropriate behavior during meetings.
As well, while pressure is mounting on Adidas, home to the rapper's Yeezy brand, to do the same.
His hate speech caused his Twitter and Instagram accounts to be restricted in 2022. The hate speech labeled West as being anti-Jewish. Take a moment to consider that this happened after he announced his interest into the gospel music industry. So many of these things would be considered sins by the people of faith. Yet here he was, hating on Jewish people, hating on his own people, making drama, while at the same time hosting a Sunday service and telling people that he's a changed man. He made fans believe that he had deepened his faith, but in reality, it seems like this was just another sign of the evil truth that goes on in the industry. People are using the gospel music industry as a way to make money. It's become a business, and for many, faith and worship aren't even focus points or are important. Instead, it's about entering this market that has so much potential for raking up millions. Gospel music isn't like it used to be, with rappers, hip-hop artists, and even country singers now choosing to enter this industry. It has become a money-making market instead of staying rooted in the fact that the gospel was created as a way to worship in the Christian community. Many of the gospel singers that we know today are actually millionaires, if not billionaires, and their wealth was made off a sensitive market. In the modern day, it's not uncommon to find situations where you have to pay to worship. That's because Christianity and the gospel music industry itself have become a business, and the focus has changed. The evil truth is that this is no longer an industry that focuses on faith and worship, but rather on taking advantage of vulnerable people looking to praise God and then digging into their pockets. Of course, this cannot be said for every single gospel artist out there, but it's important that we see things for what they truly are. There's a dark side to this music industry that we need to realize and expose, as that's the only way we will be able to get gospel back to its roots. Everyone has their own opinions on this matter, and some may not fully agree that it has become an industry to make millionaires. What's your opinion? I'd love to get your thoughts on this entire story. Do you agree that the gospel music industry is hiding an evil truth? Do you buy gospel music or tickets to these live shows? Leave a comment to let me know your thoughts. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and remember to subscribe for more documentaries.